Thanks for joining the HomeMatters podcast with Eric and Gina Boggs, where they lead authentic, raw discussions about marriage, family life, kids, intimacy, and sex from a biblical perspective. Now here's your host, Eric and Gina Boggs.
Home matters. It's that
Always.
time again. Every single day.
Yeah, it's happy music, isn't it? I love our music,
you
our
could just
lead-in.
see, what happens during the lead-in. Yeah, somebody's over here just enjoying
That's
every
happy
minute
music.
of it. Yeah, it is happy music.
Welcome to Home Matters.
Right, married life is a happy life, right?
Yep, season one.
Supposed to be.
This is episode 6.
Yeah, number
Already?
6 already. That's right.
We're glad to have you with us. If you're joining
Always.
early in the morning or late in the night.
We just need you to share. Help us share.
Yep.
Help us
hit
get
that
the
share
word
button.
out. That's right.
Yeah, we believe that home, marriage, family matters.
So important.
It's
That's
a
where the name
complicated
come
deal,
from.
isn't it?
Yeah, I think we've said that like 10 times already in the last 30
And
seconds.
we'll continue to say it.
That's right. Home matters. Hey, we're going to talk about the atmosphere of your home today.
Yep.
The
And,
atmosphere and something that can easily change that real quick. Right?
Yeah, I would think so. Nothing. Everybody wants to live in a house that's tense all the time, and
Oh, they do?
yeah, you have all this pressure, and
I don't like that.
always feel like you're about to.
I don't think that's what everybody wants.
No, I don't either. I don't want it.
No.
I don't want to
Listen,
live in
there's
that.
enough pressure, stress, craziness in every day that we live, right? At work, just going to the store
Yeah.
can be very driving in traffic.
Should be.
That could be very stressful, right? You
Not
get
for me.
extremely stressed driving, don't you? Tell the truth.
I do a little road rage every once in a while.
It breaks out every now and then. But,
No, I don't do that bad, really. I mean, relatively speaking,
okay.
I don't think I do that bad because I
Okay.
know there's some people that really kind of freak out,
On the road.
Yeah. So
But
I'm really
what I was
freaked out.
saying
I'll ride your bumper if you're
There's-
not going speed limit like you
He
should.
will. He will.
If
There's
you're
so
poking.
much tension in the world, I think,
Mm-hmm.
that we should not have to go home and live in that same tense atmosphere. So
right.
what we're talking about today is just the demands and maybe our being a little overbearing in this marriage relationship and how
Yep.
that can cause tension in home.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at the camera. You notice I'm doing it today?
Are you looking at the camera?
Yeah, some of our critique, they told me if we're going to do video, I need to look at the camera more. Is that right? So I'm looking at the camera.
I think that's what
that
you're
better?
doing. Maybe overboard. I'm not sure what to do with you today.
Oh, well, again, as we get into our topic today for home, kind of lead off, like you said, the last place where to feel a lot of pressure is at home.
That's right.
And one of the ways, again, we've been married for
How long?
just a few days away from 36 years.
Right. Got an anniversary coming up.
And with that, again, we've had times where you could probably say as this issue is probably worse than others, but for the bigger part, as we've grown and learned and matured in our marriage relationship, I think this is something that we look back and say, that something that's been healthy for us. It's been
That's
good
right.
for us, and
You just want home to be a place where everybody wants to come to
yeah.
in the evening.
And
Whenever when they get off
everybody's
work
not
or
the same. We
school.
understand that, and
That's right.
if everybody out there says, well, you're living in a, there may be people out there that say, well, you may be that personality type. That's just not my personality type. But our personality types are not exactly the same either.
No.
What they call it, the Enneagram or what do they call it?
Yeah. Something like
Something
that.
like that.
Our numbers are not the same.
Our numbers are not the same, and so again, you may have different personalities, different drives. But I believe that if you look at it, I could say that through the years we have learned that it really is healthy for our home in our marriage especially, therefore affecting our home, to not just be overly demanding toward each other.
Yeah, I mean, we can be overwhelmed by just the demands, I say it again, in culture, job or whatever, and to come home and have to deal with those same just overbearing all the time. Now, that doesn't mean that there should not be some expectations, some things that we should be able to expect, but I think sometimes we just have expectations that maybe aren't realistic. We just expect maybe more than anybody's able to give. And then even just in little things, I think, whether it's just where we get a phone call if somebody's going to be late, or, just are you keeping up with your task around the house that you're supposed to be keeping up with, right? All those things. And those really little things in the scope of life and eternity, those little things can just become things that are an irritant. Yeah. And so they cause such
we're using
stress.
the word demand, but the other, fit right well here would be expectation.
Yeah.
And again, we should have those, you said that a minute ago, should have certain levels of expectation.
Right.
It's a marriage relationship. It ought to work, and we ought to each be given totally to our spouse, but our kids can't receive what they need unless we're right in our relationship. So
that's right.
In that, again, everyone's given a certain measure or level of grace and mercy, and that we live out every day. And I know that
be able to extend that at home and family.
Sure.
I think sometimes it's a lot easier to give people outside of our home more grace than we actually do at home. Or maybe you feel like you've been extending grace all day, and then you come home and you're like, I'm done with the grace. Just do what you're supposed to do. But, individually,
that's what I'm talking about.
I know, that's what he's talking about.
That's what I'm talking about.
Individually, I think that we have to look at ourselves, though, and just maybe ask
the
some
food
on the table. Right? Hot, steaming.
Yes.
Full course meal.
Favorite beverage to my right.
Yeah.
When I get it.
How often does that happen for you, sir?
Never. Not often. We usually come in together, and a lot of times we're later eating.
It's too late. Too late.
I think we ate supper last night. What time we sit down for supper? About
it's not
10,
even
15.
It's embarrassing. Yeah.
Yep.
It was a strange day.
I know when I got up this morning, I was still.
It was a strange day.
I was still.
But you're still full.
Nurtured from supper, if you can call it that.
I don't know if you can call it that, but what I was trying to say, get me off track.
I'm sorry.
Are you? I think we have to look at ourselves and say, are we high maintenance?
Yeah, that's a good way.
Yeah. Am I just a high maintenance person?
There are plenty of tasks around, right? Plenty of things that we have to do in our home, outside of our home, that has to do with our relationship. And again, if you look at just a little task of things like cut the grass, or
he did that today, by the way. It looks really good.
Yeah, I squeezed that in about an hour.
Did that fast.
I had about an hour block today that I ran home and was able to do that. And so if my eyes are a little cloudy, it's because I got grass in them still. But we were able to, and again, we got all these things that are necessary, that are needed, that have to be done.
Right.
And the last thing we need, like you said already, in our schedule that is already kind of packed, is a spouse is waiting on us, or always got the short list of expectations, or those high demands, those high maintenance kind of expectations that we're always under the pressure. And we've learned through the years that's one thing that we've tried to make sure we manage well. I think that we're not saying be careless in any way, but what we are saying is for our spouse, the person they need that the least from is you.
Yeah.
And
and talking about home, take it a step, past your spouse. I mean, we should, and there should be expectations of our children. But if people feel like they never measure up, there comes a place where I really think you just stop trying to measure up. That makes sense?
Yeah, kind of.
I mean, you just feel like nothing I do is ever going to be enough. So
just exasperated.
You just get worn out trying to measure up all the time. And so there has to be, an element of expectation but, not those that are unrealistic. And we must be quick to offer grace and quick to, say.
Let me ask a question for everybody to kind of entertain out there that's listening. Are your expectations, or any of your expectations right now that you look at of your spouse, are any of those that are maybe a little overwhelming or maybe a little too much for your spouse? Mm-hmm. If you know those, if you know their places,
that's
that
right.
maybe the things that you have expectation of are just kind of wearing your spouse, you need to change that like today.
Absolutely.
You need to lower the bar.
God help us that we're surely not being exasperating on purpose.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to make sure that you're realistic. And again, we're not saying in any way that we should be careless about our responsibility toward our spouse.
Right.
But what we are saying, what we're trying to lead you in is finding a place that in your marriage relationship that those demands are not so high that they lead to stress fractures and they lead to places where your relationship breaks down.
Yeah.
Because we see that, and we've seen that in life, and dealing with couples, we've seen where sooner or later somebody begins to drift.
Just kind of breaks.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think one thing, too, when you think about expectations, a lot of times they're unspoken demands or expectations that we hold that our spouse is not even aware of. Mm-hmm. And, maybe it's things that we just think they ought to know that they should be doing, right? But we've never really spoken those. So there are those unspoken things, and we just get all in a mess in ourselves because that expectation's not being met when our spouse is really not even aware that we have that expectation.
It's a felt expectation. Can you say it that way?
Yeah, like I would feel it and you knew nothing about it. So that happens.
Yeah, it's kind of like felt needs. You find needs that but again, it's felt expectation that is that we're not delivering on. Then we feel the pressure of that.
Yeah,
and that can go either way. Mm-hmm. But God help us all to realize that we want to make sure that we're always recognizing that we need to extend the grace that is in our life, or learn that grace that is in our life.
Yeah.
Great book, by the way, In the Grip of Grace, Max Lucado. We'll drop those every once in a while for you to read, those kind of things. But again, anybody that don't understand grace, don't recognize what grace is on your life, especially if you're a believer or follower of Jesus, then man, that ought to be extended through us to
absolutely,
our
man.
spouse.
So much grace that's been given to us as God's child, as His son or daughter. And, that's the call on our life as a believer, is to extend that grace to others. And like I said earlier, sometimes that's easier to do with everybody else. And then at home, it's just like, well, you just need to do this. And I don't have any grace for that. I don't have any patience. That's the word we use. I don't have any patience with that. And I think when we say, I don't have any patience with that, we're really saying my grace is done for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, don't take advantage of your spouse's grace
either,
right?
And think about all the places where there's certain things that are needed that we're responsible for in our relationship. And those things, if they move into that place that is high demand or there's high expectations, then again, we have to look at those and say, all right, how do we make sure that this thing is something that we resolve, that we extend the grace and the care and the concern and the margin. Can I say it that way? The margin
that's good.
That is needed to help us come to a place that brings health and balance.
Yes,
in our love relationship.
We have to deal with those things. If we don't, I think that just opens up a huge place for that unsettled atmosphere, for strife, for resentment, for living in that all the time. And that just, unfortunately, can become the norm of a home.
What are some of the demands? What are some of the expectations?
Expectations?
Yeah, just general.
Well, we already said, like, get the grass cut.
Yeah,
I don't want to have to wade through that. Tasks. They're all kind of household tasks.
Yeah.
Keeping up with the bills.
Money, food. Amen.
Cooking. I think you mentioned that one.
Yeah, the kids, responsibilities
Taking care
with
of
the
the
kids.
Yeah, just seeing to they get in the bed, seeing to they get
Vehicles.
their bath. Yeah, keep the oil changed,
The home,
tires rotated,
right?
keep the
All
shutters
that.
on the house.
What about the
falling off.
romance?
Okay.
What about the sexual relationship? We haven't talked
Absolutely.
about that a lot yet. We need to dive into that more. I know couples can have these expectations when it comes to their sexual
Intimate
relationship,
life,
and
right?
before you know it, that's a stress point, and
Right.
it never should be.
Well, it's because there was an expectation maybe that wasn't met, and then because it wasn't met, we resent,
Yeah,
and it starts a process. It starts just
right.
a ball rolling that you just can't ever seem.
Yeah, and we talk about this along the way. Again, those are places in our life, and again, that's the biggie that a lot of people don't want to talk about or don't want to deal with. Especially Christians, we don't like to talk about that. But the Bible's pretty plain about that. There should be,
right.
there should be expectations.
Right.
But again, are those expectations realistic? Are they healthy? Are both spouses or husband and wife both are they healthy when it comes to their sexuality? All of that comes into play. So we're just saying that, man, we can have all these standards or these hoops that we have to jump through. And if we're not careful, we've created unrealistic demands.
That's right.
And I just believe that there's a place for every couple to find that, man, there's a place that they find resolve and there's strength to one another, and they're not always stressed when they're around each other. Man, I love to come home and find the refuge of being with
Isn't
my
that
wife.
what it's supposed to be? It's supposed to be our home. Should be our refuge. I said it earlier.
Yeah.
It's the place we want to go back to.
Yeah, and whether the food's
Be
on the
there.
table.
That's right.
Or
if you have to pick it up on your way home.
Yeah, she knows that's not a big deal if she's outside and the grass is, scraping her knees. I'm not going to get real stressed because, again, I don't want her to have to do that, and we try not to get to that place anyway. But again, we're just saying they're little things.
I don't cut the grass. You kind of made that sound like I was cutting the grass. That's his task. It's hot outside right now in South Carolina.
I enjoy cutting grass, really, on the zero turn.
Yeah.
But again, we are at a place that we've looked back at life and really, I guess we're pretty easygoing. I guess that we could say that as we look at each other, we're not real demanding people. But the thing is the joy of being together exceeds all of those pressures and demands. So
Yeah, it does.
we haven't got much
does.
time. Let's share
I
some
wanna
thought from
give-
Scripture.
Absolutely. I want us to get to these scriptures. This is great.
This is
Listen.
good stuff.
Proverbs 17:1. Need to write this one down. It says, "Better is a dry morsel with quietness than a house full of feasting with strife." I mean, a dry morsel. just give me bread and water if it's peaceful in here, instead of the full course, 5-course meal with a
If
bunch
there's
of strife.
strain and stress on the. Yeah, and again, nobody likes that tension, right? And
No,
again, what we're
don't.
trying to encourage you to do is realize that, man, we can't. There may be things that they're demands, and there may be things that are stressing your relationship that, you have to ask the question, really,
I mean,
what's
is
the big
it
deal?
worth it? Right.
If my food's not when I expected, or, my clothes are not what I expect, or
steamed,
any of that stuff,
Didn't pick it
So
up.
what? What's the big deal? But again, people make it a big issue. Got another one.
Just like it said, that resentment and that strife, it makes for a terrible atmosphere. Listen to this one, James 4:1-2. "What causes fights and quarrels among you? Don't they come from your desires that battle within you?" Listen to this. You want something, but you don't get it. So there's an expectation there.
Yeah.
Man, I mean, that is so clear. And the reason we fight and quarrel, whether it's actually out, quarreling with our spouse, or this is what happens too, I think, maybe we don't say anything about our unmet expectation, but on the inside, we're quarreling with ourselves and we're battling and fighting on the inside because there's so much resentment and strife there.
And that comes down to sometimes we can just be selfish, right? We want our way. We want it our way. And again, marriage is you die to yourself. You prefer your spouse. And again, your husband, your wife, and they are first. And I always say it this way. When you get married, you automatically become second. You have a kid, you become third, fourth, on down the line. So again,
you just continue to keep dying to yourself as you prefer others.
And in the context there, James is basically talking about, realizing your selfishness and learning to get along. And again, it goes on. It says, God will always he makes His grace known to people who humble themselves. And, pride, is we know, is a dangerous thing. And,
I love that. I mean, He gives grace. We're trying to figure out, okay, how can I give more grace? Well, we humble ourselves. When we humble ourselves and we become second, and then on down in Philippians, I love the passage there, chapter 2.
Yeah, hit that one real quick. About out of time.
Chapter 2, verse 3 and 4. Don't be selfish. Don't try to impress others. Be humble. There it is again. Thinking of others is better than ourselves. Look, don't look out for your own interests, but take an interest in others. Yeah, so preferring.
And if you're out there saying, well, that's talking about, church. That's talking about, well, where does it start any better than this Christian relationship?
That's right.
That I have
this one that's supposed to reflect.
With my wife, or you have with your husband.
Yeah.
Again, other passages, 1 Peter 3, dealing with your wife with understanding, bearing with one another, Ephesians 4.
Bear with.
Endeavor and put up with
one another.
All of that is real.
That? Really?
Yep.
Put up with one another?
It does.
I got to put up with him. He's got to put up with me.
But I love you.
Put up with each other.
Hey, your home matters, right?
Yes, it does.
And we encourage you to start where you are. You say our life is not at that place. Start today.
That's right.
And let God make it something that's beautiful and make it something that's strong.
He'll do it.
And shows the whole world that marriage is still a good thing.
That's right. Home matters.
See you next time.